There is nothing wrong with your device. Do not attempt to adjust the volume. We are now in control of this transmission.
Next week on A Current Affair. I'm sorry if I've ever, gotten into your business. I never meant to. I only wanted to play it out.
You didn't have to do the verbal F you and call me a bitch, did you?
He's taking his clothes off. Oh my God!
Don't accuse my dad of this ever again.
What are you talking
Jim
about?
Hall!
Jim Hall!
Owns United!
I don't care who owns what.
Yeah.
You are weird.
Yes, you're a weird
You don't even know-
motherfucker.
you don't even know
better
who
not
you
be a
are.
snitch, because I'll tell fucking
Oh, I'm a
Carl
snitch.
Benchmark.
What's the date on that? I'll have to plead guilty if I gotta work. I can't take the court, take the day off. You goddamn asshole!
She's not like she's the queen and we're the sorry people.
First of all, you're throwing too many big words at me. Okay, now, because I don't understand them, I'm gonna take them as disrespect.
Welcome to the weird.
God, you're weird, aren't you? I mean, you're really weird.
Brother Harry, I invite you to a little entertainment for madmen only, and one price only, your mind. Are you ready? For the next 30 minutes, sit quietly, and we will control all that you hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your device.
Oh, hey there. Thank you for tuning in to episode 2, and thank you for supporting the Tangent General. New introduction, same show. I'm actually really proud of that introduction. It represents to me a lot of what this show is about and what the direction of this show is about. And our first story in today's show is all about what I think this podcast is about, and it's called What's the Big Idea Anyway? Our second story is about the global financial crisis and the various ideas of what it means for the sky to be falling, and it's entitled What to Do If the Sky Starts Falling. We're on Patreon. The website's www.tangentgeneral.com. We're on iTunes, so please make sure to like and leave a 5-star review or a 1-star review. We've had lots of feedback this week, positive feedback, constructive feedback, even a little bit of negative feedback, and it's all fantastic because it helps me to know where to take the show from week to week, from month to month, and to deliver for you the best product I possibly can. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy about 40 minutes of audio entertainment. From Genesis 11, verses 10 through 15. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and begat Ephraxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begat Ephraxad 500 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Ephraxad lived 35 years, and begat Salah. And Ephraxad lived after he begat Salah 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years, and begat Eber. And Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. So, what's this show about? Where does it come from? The shortest answer is that this show comes from the tangents that I follow. If you think about a dictionary, you may start with the idea of looking up one word, but then it will reference another word, and that word will reference another word, and the third word is much more interesting than the first. Thus, you change your thought process and start following the third word rather than the first word. Well, that's sort of an idea of what this show is all about. I started this particular story with the verse about who begat whom in the story of Genesis for two reasons. One is, like thoughts, you might start with Shem, but find that Eber or Salah are more interesting ideas to follow. The second, though, is to acknowledge that my ideas and my style of presentation and my desire to do more and be more through a podcast hasn't occurred in a vacuum. Rather, I too have been begat from many different influences, and I now stand on the shoulders of the entertainment ancestors who paved the way for me to do this and to spread my voice around the world by leveraging technology. I leverage technology in a multiplicity of ways. Firstly, I am communicating both verbally and in writing through show notes and so on and so forth. Language, then, is the bedrock technology that I am using. From there, I have a series of sophisticated interchanges that occur electronically to get the signal from my throat to your ear. These include a microphone, a sound card, digital audio workstation or a DAW, a website, an RSS feed, and the internet, which is a series of complicated technologies itself. Beyond that, I have the content technologies that I am leveraging, both in the various mediums such as the books, the films, the television, radio, and podcasts that I am in dialogue with. However, beyond all of that, I have cognitive technologies that I'm also leveraging. For example, in the introduction to each show, I am quoting from Hess and his book Steppenwolf. At root of all of this is an idea that came from J.D. Salinger, and that is the mind of Holden Caulfield. I am not Holden Caulfield. I am the student presenting the oral presentation and being marked harshly by the teacher for engaging in too many tangents, which prompts Holden Caulfield to think about that class like this. There was a class where each boy in class had to get up in class and make a speech. You know, spontaneous and all. And if the boy digresses at all, you're supposed to yell, "Digression!" at him as fast as you can. It just about drove me crazy. I got an F in it. That digression business got on my nerves. I don't know. The trouble with me is, I like it when someone digresses. It's more interesting and all. And that's the thing. When I read that years ago, I resonated with it. But what I like is to really dig into a thought, to find out what else exists in the constellation of an idea I am pondering. When I was a kid, my father asked me to imagine how big space is, to think about the size of a small black hole, and then to compare that with the concept of human power. He said, if you can picture in your mind the concept of just the solar system, then you can picture how arbitrary it would be for a nuclear war to break out. The solar system simply wouldn't care. Jupiter would still do Jupiter, and Pluto doesn't give a fuck whether you call it a planet or not. But at the same time, despite how small and ultimately insignificant we all are, we still hold in ourselves some form of divinity. Now, whether you attribute that to God or to a specific deity such as Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or Moses is up to you. But in other words, there is something to a single idea and all the tangents it produces that is mimicking the entire universe. I also like digging deep into philosophies that have perpetuated into modern or contemporary thought processes, like the nature of time, or questions about whether there is an objective truth and what that means for the subjective experience of life. In a way, I want this podcast to fulfill the broken promise of a humanities education at university level. For myself, that is. I'm not wanting to teach the humanities through this podcast, rather to grapple with the profound and perplexing paradoxes that the great thinkers throughout time have racked their minds with. For instance, the tautological argument that proves the existence of God.
Funny that God is just another word, isn't it, really? The source of fucking something that we've all come from that we can't quite put our fucking fingers on. Just, the atheists, they're funny as fuck, The hilarious They just know. I know. Science told them. God doesn't exist. And even if he does exist, Steve, we just made him up. Well, if you made him up, then he exists. Now he exists within your collective imaginations and the collective construct of consciousness, and he exists within a fucking idea. Now he fucking exists. See, that table never used to exist. Someone made it. Now it exists. We go, yes, Steve, we could burn the table. We go, yeah, you could. But you still have the idea of the table. And the only way to become a true atheist is to get God to stop believing in himself. And how are we going to do that? I don't know, because I don't take mushrooms anymore.
So I demand to be liberated, to some degree, from the dreaded red thread. I want to engage with implicity and loosen the shackles of explicity. I want you to wonder what it is that I am referencing and to think about the ideas that I am presenting and to openly reject or accept them as you desire. I want to deeply contrast the contemporary reality show paradigm of reducing everything to bite-sized chunks so the audience doesn't have to concentrate. I don't care whether you concentrate on my voice when I speak or if you concentrate on what you're doing while you listen. Hey, if you're driving while you hear me, then for fuck's sake, keep your eyes on the road and your hands upon the wheel. But that's what this is, see? It's performance art, and it's weaving ideas together and tearing tangents apart. The background music here is The Doors, but it's not The Doors. It's a song from the 60s, but it's not from the 60s. What does that even mean, Nick? It means that it's a cover of The Doors by Deep Purple on a new album released in 2016. Ideas do not need to have a distinction. They can blend and transform, and I want to follow that. The blending, the transforming, the changing, and most of all the weirdness. Why? Because I'm weird. Unashamedly weird. I use words people don't normally hear. I tell jokes people don't normally laugh at. I'm outrageous, and I do things that only fully make sense to me. For you? For you it means sit back, relax, and listen. You don't have any obligations to this project. Listen to it. Let it wash over you. That's what I want. I want to distract you just enough from the hard, cold reality so that you can get through the day, or at least the 30 or the 40 minutes of content that's in each episode. I want to tell stories without a beginning and without an end, without a takeaway conclusion, with only a lingering sense of deep profundity that we face as sentient beings gazing upon the great vista of human history. So I want to end here where I began, and I want to do this often throughout this podcast. Tell a story that loops back to its own beginning. I began with Genesis, and if you deconstruct that word, what does it mean?
Etymology, semantics, and meaning change. So far, we've followed the trail of various forms of a word as it changed over time, but just stating that, for example, Quain became queen ignores one crucial aspect, an aspect that initially attracts most amateur enthusiasts of etymology, semantics. When it comes to etymology, semantics deals with the meaning of words and parts of words.
Yeah. Let's not get lost in the semantics, right here or right now. Genesis simply means origins, and I want to tell you a story of the origins of story. Once upon a time, when our ancestors were cave people, or tree people, or whatever, they had two great periods, the day and the night. Now,
life, as Hobbes says, can be nasty, brutal and short. So the days were spent surviving. That meant foraging, hunting, travelling and building shelter. The nights, though, were a different beast altogether. The nights were where we communed. The nights were where we entertained ourselves, and the backdrop to all of that was the night sky. And the night sky was full of bright, bright stars. And those stars were ever present. So, over time, our stories became more sophisticated, and these stars played a bigger and bigger role. Well, we are all made of stars. But right here and right now, the stars are the shining lights of our best stories. The end. You mean you don't believe me? Well, hey, what do we call those people who are successful in Hollywood? Are you old enough to remember the pervasive threat of nuclear war that only began to dissipate during the 1980s? What to do if the sky starts falling?
Michael, how are you?
I found something really interesting.
The whole housing market is propped up on these bad loans. They will fail.
The housing market is rock solid.
It's a time bomb. So Mike Burry, who gets his hair cut at Supercuts and doesn't wear shoes, knows more than Alan Greenspan.
Dr. Mike Burry, yes he does.
You know what? I'm pissed off. American people are getting screwed by the big banks. And I am getting madder and madder.
It's unbelievable.
Then this guy walks into my office and says,
there's some shady stuff going down.
All the banks were having a big old party. A few outsiders saw it when no one else could. The whole world economy might collapse.
I'm sure the world's banks have more incentives than greed.
You're wrong.
No one's paying attention.
The banks got greedy, and we can profit off of their stupidity.
Do you want to bet against the banks?
I think we're either high or having a stroke. Kind of brilliant.
Fraud has never ever worked. Eventually, things go south. When the hell did we forget all that?
How can the banks let this happen? It's fueled by stupidity.
But that's not stupidity, that's fraud.
Tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested.
You have any idea what you just did? You just bet against the American economy.
If you're wrong, you can lose it all. The banks defrauded the American people. Now we can kick them in the teeth.
Okay, here we go.
You target strippers
with bad loans.
And they're all cash rich.
I'm not going to be able to refinance.
On all my loans?
What do you mean, all your loans?
I have 5 houses and a condo.
Henny Penny, Chicken Little, or Chicken Licken is a folk tale. According to Wikipedia, it is a folk tale with a moral in the form of a cumulative tale about a chicken who believes that the world is coming to an end. Tor.com, Tor.com, has written an article that tracks the origins of this story. They write, exactly where the first version of the story was told is a bit unclear, but one of the first to record the tale was Just Matthias Thiel, 1795 to 1874, a Danish scholar employed at the Royal Danish Library. Inspired by Jacob and William Grimm, he began collecting Danish folktales. His version of Henny Penny appeared in his 1823 collection with the familiar elements already present. Rhyming names, a series of barn animals, a terror set off by something completely ordinary, in this case a falling nut, and a very hungry fox more than willing to take advantage of the situation. What is perhaps the most memorable line from the story or fable is when Henny Penny, Chicken Licken, declares that the sky is falling. This idea that the sky is falling is the theme of our story here, as we have a look at the world around us, post-global financial crisis, in the midst of Brexit, with a Trump White House and a hemorrhaging auto industry. Is the sky falling? Wikipedia tells us the following. The phrase, "the sky is falling," features prominently in Chicken Little, and has passed into the English language as a common idiom, indicating a hysterical or mistaken belief that disaster is imminent.
Victims adhere to the Mayan calendar, which predicts the end of time to occur on the 21st of December of 2012.
You won't believe this. I thought we'd have more time. The world, as we know it, will soon come to an end. It's starting. The Mayans knew about it. The Bible. It's the end of the world, my friends. Yellowstone has become the world's largest volcano. Daddy, what was that? Don't look back, just look at me. Do I look scared? We gotta get to the airport. Guys, look.
Where are we going?
The government is building these ships. The moment we stop fighting for each other, that's the moment that we lose our humanity.
Given I'm recording this in 2017, the world did not end in a dramatic fashion on 21st of December 2012, a date that will still resonate for some with a mix of fear and excitement as they eagerly anticipated a great and perhaps necessary change. Yet, as with all claims that the end is nigh, almost regardless of their source material, the Mayan calendar, the Book of Revelations, scientific assessments, etc., this is nothing more than an obvious and clear example of the sky appearing to fall.
I am so excited to be here and just to be alive and witness firsthand, to be here for the millennium, you know, and not have to read it. I think we're so privileged. We all get to be here, you know, alive, to see firsthand January 1st, 2000, you know, and listen to all those fundamentalist preachers having to do their backpedaling, you know, when Armageddon doesn't occur, you know? Isn't that going to be great? That's going to kick ass! That's going to be great! You get to see it. You know, because for hundreds of years they've been talking about it. It's in Revelations. It's in the book of Daniel. You know, they've you know, used it for hundreds. See, and on that day, the book of Daniel says God is telling us all signs pointing to that day Jesus Christ will descend from heaven on a diamond-studded chariot with chocolates and teddy bears for all the good Christians, and then and the Jew and the Muslim and all the mud people will be hell on earth in a lake of fire and bile and piss. But, you know, that's not going to happen. Jesus isn't coming back. It's going to be great. You know, it was safe to do, like, you know, in the 50s and 60s. You know, that one was really far away, but it's creeping up. And I can't wait for the excuses, you know, and they're... Well, I'll tell you what. Boy, I am just red-faced about this. It's, I'm tickled. I'll tell you what. It's just funny. It's a funny story. Well... The funny thing is, I keep my Bible in the den, okay, where my family congregates and we pray. And apparently about 30 years ago, my youngest got in there, okay, because you know how kids love the Bible. And my youngest got in there and had peanut butter on her fingers and just had smudged over the bottom of a 3. So it looked like a 2. So it's my bad. So it's January 1st, 3000. I was off by 1 millennium, and there will be another 1,000 years of fundraising. God bless. God bless it. All right.
Some shouts of the sky is falling seem hysterical and appear to be mistaken beliefs that disaster is imminent, yet ultimately they prove to be sage foresight. For even though Tiberius can't see what's in front of him, he always had a clear vista of what was ahead, chronologically speaking. A modern Tiberius was, and perhaps still is, Steve Eisman, who, like others with some foresight, chose to short the mortgage derivative market. At the time, this was seen as pure lunacy, but his vindication came not simply in the millions of dollars he made on the short, but through the moral vindication that he has earned via the work of Michael Lewis, Adam McKay, and Steve Carell, cementing Eisman's place as an integral part of contemporary history. 10 years after the banking system began to implode, eventually culminating in the close of Lehman Brothers and a global financial crisis, the bankrupted Ireland left Greek people with harsh austerity measures and placed Portugal, Ireland, Italy and Spain in an unenviable position. We are only just beginning to grasp the gravity of this situation. The pun being intended here, as perhaps the sky is really falling. Although fictional, Steve Carell's portrayal of Eisman's sentiments as Bear Stearns fell like a house of cards is true to the spirit of the historical moment.
Okay, hi. My firm's thesis is pretty simple. Wall Street took a good idea, Louis Ranieri's mortgage bond, and turned it into an atomic bomb of fraud and stupidity that's on its way to decimating the world economy.
How do you really feel?
I'm glad you still have a sense of humor. I wouldn't if I were you. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I have no problem telling someone they're wrong. It's my passion. But for the first time in my life, it's not so enjoyable. We live in an era of fraud in America, not just in banking, but in government, education, religion, food, even baseball. What bothers me isn't that fraud is not nice or that fraud is mean. It's that for 15,000 years, fraud and short-sighted thinking have never ever worked. Not once.
Jesus, we're at
37.
We're at 37.
People get caught. Things go
It's fucking
south.
plummeting, man. It's fucking plummeting.
When the hell did we forget all that? I thought we were better than this. I really did. And the fact that we're not doesn't make me feel all right and superior. It makes me feel sad.
Every time I fucking hit refresh, it's dropping, man. It always goes down.
And as fun as it is to watch pompous, dumb Wall Streeters be wildly wrong, and you are wrong, sir, I just know that at the end of the day, average people are going to be the ones that are going to have to pay for all of this. Because they always,
32?
always do.
It's 32. Yeah, it's fucking tank, man.
That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
What's important here? Is it that the average people were the ones to pay this? First, there was the bailout of an ungodly $700 billion odd on the eve of the Obama presidency. Then, there was a series of 3 sets of quantitative easing that bankrolled investment gambling done in a black hole called the stock and bond markets. Today, large retailers all over the global village are failing. Payless Shoes, JCPenney, Sears are all on the brink of collapse or have already fallen by the wayside. Malls, shopping centres, the urban dream of the 1950s Americana now risk becoming a relic of a Trojan past. We may now wonder, were Greenspan, Bernanke and Geithner right? Was this the right path to take post-Soviet Russia? I don't for a second envy Hank Paulson. I don't for a moment wish to have the weight of the market, for better or for worse, on my shoulders, as Alan Greenspan, Ben Bernanke, Timothy Geithner, and now Janet Yellen do. What can even be said for the other players? The Dick Folds of the world, Lloyd Blankfield, Jamie Dimon, etc., etc. From the outside looking in, it seems that South Park described it best when they characterised the entire process as a chicken running around with its head cut off.
Sirs, another insurance company is going under. Now determining most prudent move for insurance company. Insurance company.
And the bad debt is gone. Or was it? See, it felt to me a lot like we were all being offered a game of Chook Lotto, and when we finally acquiesced to the process, what we really got was fake Chook Lotto. Please keep in mind that the following clip was of a Chook Lotto skit on Hey Hey It's Saturday, which aired less than 12 months after Lehman Brothers collapsed.
Chug-a-lot night, we got a barrel full of chicks, it's gonna be alright. Yeah. Yes, welcome to Fake Chocolate. Fake Chocolate.
Hey, Daryl, I didn't know you couldn't dance.
Oh, no, thank you, John. Now, of course, thank you for reminding me, because this is fake Chook Lotto. Because we ran out of time to do this legally, we thought we'll do it anyway. We'll do it illegally, and we called it fake Chook Lotto. Let me explain Chook Lotto. Last week, I asked people if they'd like to be on fake Chook Lotto, where we don't have any prizes. Well, on fake Chook Lotto, you put on the back of an envelope 4 numbers from between 10 and 19, and a supplementary number from between 1 and 9. That's all you have to do. And you sent, and people jumped in. We have thousands of entries, knowing that you're not going to win anything, yet we still have thousands of entries. So what we do, we simply ask Crystal, who is behind there, to...
is it still risky, Daryl?
It is a bit risky, because there's a bit of play in this. So I'll hold this up here, and with any luck...
Only if it drops on your foot,
I seem to remember this as being risky.
The chooks will let her rip, Crystal, with number... Number 2. Slow down! Hang on, slow down. Please, I'm going to get the other one in.
Are you right?
Yes, I'll have my foot reset tomorrow. Years ago, we used to have a chook. Years ago, we used to have a chook that used to plop them out. And we got, there he is, there's the rubber chook. The rubber chook. There they are. Oh, they're all in. What about the baby? You got the baby back. Oh. Yes. Now, drum roll.
Hang on, I've got to pull it off.
Okay.
They're tight, aren't they?
Well, you're getting older.
Yeah, budget's not big. Yeah.
Yes!
Congratulations! Congratulations, we're all with you, John!
Yes, Yes, other non-prizes you can't win tonight on Chook Lotto don't include a night in a spa with Harry Connick Jr., a world trip for your whole family travelling first class with Fat Chance Airlines, and a genuine Louis XIV beanbag chair, Daryl. And remember, you have to be in it not to win it.
You have to be in it not to win it. That was the last episode of Fake Chook Lotto. I don't know whether we'll ever be able to do that again, but it was fun. That's the way we played it years ago and the way we won't be playing it in the future.
Am I being cynical if I draw special attention to the fact that Daryl Summers, the host of this show, said that they tried to do it legally but ran out of time, so they had to do it illegally? Is it too much of a stretch to somehow connect light variety entertainment to the manoeuvrings of those with power and influence with regard to their decision-making during the build-up to the global financial crisis? That they tried to do it legally, but ran out of time and had to do it illegally? What does that even mean? To say that the global financial crisis was orchestrated illegally? Yeah, I am being cynical. As always, our task is to seek and draw out the remaining hope in any and all impossible situations. We need to look for and build towards the light when the sky appears to be falling. Overall, the experience of 2008 has left a bitter taste in many mouths, and the population, to one degree or another, is on edge about what may happen next. We discussed wolves last time, but now we must discuss another predator, the fox. I shan't have too much to say in the remaining moments of this story about the fox, for the fox deserves his own cunning story. But we know from Henny Penny that when the chickens became hysterical, the cunning fox sought out an easy dinner. You may argue now amongst yourselves who the Fox of Wall Street really is. But, at the very least, we can say one thing for sure, and that is that the Wolf of Wall Street went to prison for his crimes. It is with this, still rather cynical perspective, that I glance over Diamond's 45-page letter to investors and ask, is he perhaps the Fox of Wall Street? Or is he just another chicken when he calls out that there is something wrong with America? The head of JP Morgan Chase is now declaring that the sky is falling. Ultimately, the sky isn't falling, but that doesn't mean you won't get hit on the head with an acorn, or perhaps worse, a nuclear bomb.